Hello, my name is Inferno, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to parry in Dark Souls 3. I've noticed that a lot of people have trouble with it and they don't really understand how parrying works in Dark Souls 3 as it is considerably different than previous titles. So I decided to make this guide to help you guys out and teach you how to do it. So to start this off, I'll primarily be talking about the three major stats that affect parrying. Those stats are Agility, Determination, and Wisdom. Optimizing these stats properly will drastically improve your character's parrying ability in both PvP and PvE. So the first stat I'm going to talk about is Agility. This stat determines the probability that your character will attempt to parry when someone attacks them. At a base agility, your character will automatically attempt to parry an attack about 10% of the time, which isn't super great, but still a good amount. But this stat is sort of bad to gouge into because it doesn't actually affect your chance to succeed a parry, it just gives the attempt. It is also important to remember that this is a very different stat than the agility stat in Demon Souls. This stat does not affect your dodge chance or the distance that you throw consumable items. It only affects your parrying and your total inventory space. I'd also like to note that before you level this stat up too far, make sure to take into account the 10% agility bonus from not wearing any armor in your hand slot. I always find that bonus is worth it when you compare it to the small defense loss when you're not wearing gauntlets or gloves. The second stat we're going to talk about is Determination. This stat directly affects how likely a parry attempt will succeed. At base Determination, you will have about a 30% success rate, but this is really drastically affected by the type of shield you use. I absolutely recommend you go to the soft cap, but make sure you're aware that the soft caps are different for different types of shields. I made a little table here showing the different Determination soft caps for each type of shield. I'll put a link to that in the description probably. Just check that out and make sure you're aware of that. I also highly recommend choosing the Warrior Magi starting class if you plan to play a left-handed build, as they start with a super high Determination, but you'll have to level your piety later in the game if you decide to use Divination. I personally feel like this is a worthwhile trade-off, but if you aren't comfortable with that, I suggest starting as a Paladin or a Ninja, as they both have very good Determination scores as well. So the final stat we're talking about today is Wisdom. This stat affects the different ranges and angles that you can parry an opponent at. At base stats, you can get about a one longsword's length parry at about a 45-degree angle in front of you. If you go all the way up to the soft cap on Wisdom, you should be able to parry in a full 180-degree cone in front of your character, and at pretty much any range, as long as they hit you, of course, as that's a core part of it. But I don't think it's really worth it, as if you're wearing the Boots of Speed or the Anklets of the Wind, you can just close the distance on like polearm users and spear users and just, get close enough that you can be parrying them at about a longsword's length. So I would suggest just investing enough that you feel comfortable and then stop it there. Though in the case that you're using a heavy armor build that's not going to be very quick, but is going to be very defensive, I do suggest investing enough that you can parry the average spear lengths of weapons, because that's pretty useful in that case. So in summary, I suggest going to the soft cap on Determination on pretty much any build, and then raising your agility as much as you have stats that are left over. If you have any points to spare after that, then a little bit of Wisdom can go a good ways, but I feel like you're probably better off putting that in other stats at that point. You can also go ahead and meld your equipment with Battle Dance IV or Quick Arm V Materias to increase your stats a little bit in terms of parrying. Like, these can give you a couple points here and there that you need. And these materials can be bought from Sullen Meridia after you finish her questline in the Lothric lower dungeons. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and good luck with your parries out there. I hope this was helpful for you all. Bye!